Welcome back into the Tide Talk podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. Stacey Blackwood here, and I'm joined as always by Jake Thomas. Jake, what's up, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm looking a little scruffy. Looks like I need to go for a trim sometime soon. But good to be here, man. And man, what a great day of action it was yesterday. Man, it was fun to watch all them games, especially ours.
Yeah, good win for Alabama. Obviously, New Mexico State was a much inferior opponent, but Alabama handled business, like you would want them to, and they kind of done everything that you expected them to do. So good performance by Alabama, kind of get back on their feet after that struggle win they had against LSU. But we're going to talk about that in a little more detail in here in just a minute. But before we get started, make sure you head on over to betonline.ag for all your online sports betting needs, whether it's the NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, just whatever you're craving at the moment. Head on over to betonline.ag and place those bets. And if you sign up today and use promo code BELIEVE50, you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like, share, retweet, do whatever you can to help promote the Tide Talk podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed there. Get in the comment section and tell us how you feel about the win Alabama had this Saturday against New Mexico State. All right, Jay, let's just jump right into things. First, we'll start offensively. Alabama was able to get back on track, scoring 59 points against New Mexico State. Just your initial thoughts on the offense and how they played, especially with the makeshift offensive line.
I missed the first quarter of the game, and of course, I was keeping up with it. I know they stalled out the very first series, but after that, they couldn't be stopped. Offensive line wise, I thought they played fairly well. Now I know it's New Mexico State, and they were 1-8. I think they're 1-9 now, so that was 1-8 at the time. So I mean, they wasn't a great defensive front anyway, or defense, but you've got to have games like that. I feel like to get some confidence back, especially after last week's game, and I believe they got their footing back. But overall, man, also these games also risk injury. Man, do we have a ton of injuries? And I hate it for guys like JoJo Earl. I know they said he may come back, but Rodell Williams, I hate that for that kid because, he's been our spark. It seems like coming off, that second, third, fourth quarter, he's just been a lightning rod for us. And losing him now, we do have kind of a AKA emergency situation at running back, but B Rob's still healthy. He's still going to get the load. And Trey Sanders, I thought, come in late and got some really good yarders, get his confidence up as well since he ain't played much lately. So overall, I'm fine with offense.
Yeah, it was nice to see the injuries were obviously the I guess the biggest takeaway, unfortunately, from the game to JoJo Earl and then to Rodell Williams, and it's probably I would say most likely neither one of those guys are going to play. Rodell Williams for sure the rest of this year. And DeMarco Hellens is fine, by the way. He went down with I think a groin injury, but he could have played later in that contest, but just kind of kept him out for precautionary reasons. So he's fine. But yeah, losing JoJo Earl and Rodell Williams, that's tough, and that's the situations that you want to avoid, especially in those matchups against teams like New Mexico State. But injuries are a part of the game, and it's got to be next man up. And unfortunately for that running back room, like you mentioned, it's almost to an emergency situation because uh, scholarship backs are dwindling down. We've now lost Jace McClellan, Rodell Williams, and Kamar Wheaton. The freshman 5-star has not played this year because of an injury. So that's 3 backs there on scholarship that are not available right now. So I had to move Demoy Kennedy from linebacker to running back and Christian Leary from wide receiver to running back. And, those guys look capable. I mean, they're not going to be elite running backs. Christian Leary looked like he had some pop to him, but, he's a little smaller guy. So I'm not sure how much of a load he could actually carry. But I'm with you. Trey Sanders looks fine. He looked good in his time that he played yesterday with the second unit. But, and to start the second half, we still had the first team offense minus B Rob, and Trey Sanders ran the ball right down the field for us. And
Yeah,
then we try to pass play, and Bryce fumbles the ball.
yeah.
But Trey Sanders did a really good job yesterday. Hopefully he's getting healthier and healthier each week, and because Alabama's going to need him now. I mean, he's really the second back now behind uh, Brian Robinson Jr. So the injuries on offense is really the biggest takeaway from yesterday. I'm with you. The offensive line did just fine, and it's hard to really tell. It's hard in these games. It's hard to be overly critical
Right.
or overly optimistic, but just because of the opponent that you played. So, but it was nice to see Billingsley and Latu each catch a touchdown pass, and hopefully
Mhm.
they kind of got their mojo back and can be contributors for the offense moving forward.
Yeah, I was going to mention Jaleel Billingsley. He dropped that first touchdown pass, and what I loved about it, we didn't give up on him. We was like, okay, we're going back to you next play,
Right. Very
and
next
it was
play.
the same as that route pretty much, and he
Yep.
caught it. I mean, that's got to be a boost of confidence for him because they're like, man, I've been dropping all these here lately. I've dropped a touchdown pass. But the guys like, no, we're going back to you. You're going to make this touchdown for us, and we
Yeah.
went back to him, and it happened. So that was great to see. And Latu, of course, had a touchdown pass as well. But man, it's great. Offensively they play great, and we should be getting Dalcourt back for the
Right.
for Arkansas and Auburn. How will Cohen be back? Was he
Well,
just just
Cohen is going to try to start back to practice on Tuesday,
okay?
so there's a great possibility that he comes back. And I thought Damian George played really well at right
I did
tackle,
too.
so I'm expecting him to hold on to that right tackle spot even when Darren Dalcourt gets plugged back into center. So, in my opinion, I think Chris Owens is going to be that sixth offensive lineman for Alabama, whether he has to play center or tackle, later on in the year. But uh, getting the offensive line straightened out is critical down the stretch.
Absolutely. And what more can we say about JMO Williams, dude?
Oh
I
man,
mean, I mean, you talk about a deep threat, and a lot of people that I talked to have been critical about Bryce Young and his deep ball hadn't been as accurate, but he was pretty accurate with JMO. When JMO gets
he's
loose,
I was talking about this today with my dad. How in the early part of the year, Bryce did struggle a lot with deep ball accuracy, but
hmm
it seems like he's starting to come around and be more comfortable with that deep ball. So,
yeah,
if Alabama can add that a more consistent deep threat to the offense, they'll just be that much stronger. And the offense is going to be key moving forward because I think the defense is good enough to win a championship. Is the offense consistent enough to win one? That's the
right.
question that remains to be seen. As we head into next week against Arkansas and Auburn, should beat both of those teams. But then you think about the matchup with Georgia there in the SEC championship game, and then moving on, maybe to the college football playoff. But offensively, it's just a status quo against New Mexico State. A really solid performance. Like I said, you can't take too much from it or take too much
Mhm.
from it away from it. So just kind of is what it is, and move on to next week against Arkansas.
Yeah, and real quick before we jump to the defensive side, the freshman stud that's in waiting in the wings, Jalen Milrow. I mean, he got his chance, and
Yeah,
that dude is quick as lightning.
he
I mean,
really is, man.
I mean, everybody on Twitter, of course, are screaming for him, and I understand. Paul Tyson's got to get his touches too. I guess he is technically the second QB on the roster, but Jalen, he just brings a different aspect than Paul Tyson does. And I'm not bashing Paul Tyson, but
Yeah, he
Jalen,
looked fine yesterday.
he
Tyson
did,
looked fine.
he did, and but Jalen gives you a different aspect than Tyson. I mean, he can run the ball if he needs to scramble out of the pocket, and he don't take. He's kind of like Bryce. He don't care to take a hit either.
Yeah, and Ja'Cory Brooks got robbed of a touchdown late in that game
Yes,
on that holding call they called on Ty Jones Bell. When even if he was holding Jake, he
yeah,
was holding the guy at the 1 yard line as Ja'Cory Brooks was crossing the goal line. So if the dude makes the tackle, it's still a touchdown.
right. I know that was crazy.
But
The backup wide receivers impressed me too that come in second
yeah,
half. All them
yeah,
all
hey,
them new
and
guys.
it was good to see Baker in the game and Ajay
Yes.
Hall in the game. They've kind
Yes.
of both been in the doghouse a little bit this year, but they
Mhm.
both got in the game yesterday, and hopefully that's kind of enough to satisfy that thirst that those guys wanted to get in the game and get into action. So a lot of young talent on this team, like you
Man,
mentioned, with Milrow and Ajay Hall, Ja'Cory Brooks. So a lot to look forward to in the future, and we're certainly excited about that. But let's move to the defensive side of the ball real quick, Jake. Just another really suffocating performance by the defense, and Dallas Turner, Will Anderson,
Mm-hmm.
LeBron Ray had a really good game. Nice
Mm-hmm.
to see him get a sack after all the injuries he's been through in Tuscaloosa. Henry To'oTo'o and Christian Harris continue to get better and better each week. They're in the middle of the defense, and Jordan Battle is like we mentioned, he's playing his best football of his Alabama career. So
Mm-hmm.
just a really solid performance by the defense again.
Absolutely, and the guy you didn't mention was Malachi Moore. I've been waiting for him to
Yes.
step up. I think he had like 3 or 4 tackles for loss. I believe I know for 3. I think he had 3 tackles for loss. He might have had another one in the game, but I mean, we've been waiting for him to break out, and he broke out in a big way yesterday. So finally, I think he's starting to come around, and that just looms deadly for our opponents coming up because, like you said, our defense right now is incredible. I mean,
Right.
they're playing. Will Anderson is the heart and soul of this team. We've already seen that, and I know New Mexico State wasn't going to stop him, but my gracious, I mean, it don't matter. We talk about it each and every week. It don't matter. You can triple team him. He's still He's still 2 footsteps away from a quarterback, even when he's releasing the ball. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know how anybody's going to stop this kid. He just has a motor, and now with the emergence of Dallas Turner on the opposite side of him,
Man.
I said this on I tweeted this out yesterday. I love Drew Sanders, but the way Dallas Turner's playing right now,
Yeah.
I know you can probably spell him out, but Dallas has a different factor than
Yep.
Sanders can bring to you. So
Agree 100%.
yeah,
You can't take his ability to rush the passer off the field,
right.
and
So
he's not a liability against the run or anything. So,
no,
and that's kind of something that's very surprising. Not surprising, but it's rare for guys that are such elite pass rushers like Will Anderson and Dallas Turner
hmm
that they are also really good against the run, Jake. They
yeah,
set the edge good. They're physical.
hmm
They have heavy hands. So when they get their hands on the ball carrier, they go down. I mean, so
yeah,
it's nice to have 2 pass rushers on the edge like Turner and Anderson who can also play the run. But I'm with you. Not nothing against Drew Sanders because he played well.
hmm
Initially when Christopher Allen went out, but Dallas Turner, he just brings that dynamic and explosive edge presence, getting after the quarterback, and it's going to be hard to take that off the field.
absolutely. And if you have teams are going to be lined up and trying to stop Will Anderson. Now they got to worry about Dallas Turner on the opposite side because
Yeah.
you can't overlook him because if you leave him free, he's going to come on and Toa Toa got free yesterday. I mean
Yeah.
he's playing probably his best ball with us right
Yeah,
now. So
teams are loading up on whatever side that Will Anderson lines up on, and it's going
yeah,
to allow some free rushers from that opposite side. So
yeah,
guys like Dallas Turner or maybe a blitzing linebacker or a blitzing safety could really eat up some sacks or tackles for loss.
man.
And we saw that yesterday like you mentioned, Malachi Moore getting some tackles for loss,
hmm
Henry To'oTo'o getting a sack. So
hmm
this defense is playing great, man, and they're really good against the run. I think they allowed 9 rushing yards yesterday against New Mexico State, and I think they're in the top 3 or 4 in the country against the run. I
hmm
think they're giving up around 2.5 yards per carry this
Wow.
year. So, and you think about it, they had that one anomaly against Florida where Florida
hmm
just ran all over them for whatever reason. But
Other than
other than
that,
that, man, you take that game away,
hmm
this rush defense has been lights out. I mean, just
absolutely,
it's been crazy, and that's why you can't ever judge a team by just one game. You can't
yeah,
judge them by their best game or their worst game because
right.
it's usually somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely, and this is a totally different team from the A&M team. That showed
Yeah,
up
it
to play
is.
A&M, and like I said, they're pinning their ears back now on defense. They're doing a lot more stunts. I really love the play calling that Pete Golden's been calling the last couple of games.
And it seems a little more aggressive. There's been a
Yes,
lot less, 3 and 4 man rushes, and a little more 5 and 6, and sometimes 7 man rushes, and obviously that does, that can lead to some bigger passing plays. But if you're getting to the pass before you can get rid of it, that eliminates that part of it. So
yeah.
I'm with you. I like the attacking style of defense that we played the last few weeks, and it just seems like this defense is playing with the most confidence they've played with all season.
Absolutely, and I think everybody's realized that we don't need Will Anderson in coverage. We need him after the quarterback each and every play, and that's what they just go out there and tell him just line up somewhere and go after the quarterback. I mean,
Find the quarterback and the football.
that's right, dude. I mean, and he's only a sophomore.
Yep.
I mean, I know a lot of teams or a lot of people don't get drafted for very first top pick in the NFL. But how? I mean, next year, if he continues having success, how do you not pick him number one next year?
Right. I mean, I'm with you, Jake. I mean, I think at this moment, if he
Mhm.
was draft eligible, he'd be the number one pick in the draft.
I do too. I mean, he's a difference maker, and I'm glad
Yep.
he's on our side.
You got that right. I'm glad we got him for one more year.
Man, you ain't kidding. And Dallas Turner be back next year too. So
Right.
man, that's still talent across the board here.
Really
It's
is,
insane.
man.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
crazy.
before we really sign off after this recap, basketball team got a win on what Friday night uh,
Great win, huge win.
against South Dakota State, 104 to
Mhm.
88. Uh, Quinterly, Shackelford, Keon Ellis, Charles Bediaco. This team just continues to show that they have scores, on all levels and all up and down the bench. So hopefully Jawan Gary's not too seriously injured. But they play again on Tuesday night against South Alabama. So looking to go 3-0. Great start for the men's hoop squad.
Absolutely, and we could dedicate a show just on the men's hoop because we love them guys as well. So we might have to do that in the future. But man, it's exciting times to be an Alabama fan right now. If you're a fan of all sports like we
Yeah.
are, so it's great. Before we sign off, I was going to ask you a question, and I seen a lot of people, tweet this out yesterday, especially since Mississippi State had that made big comeback and beat Auburn. Alabama takes care of Arkansas this week. They pretty much win the West, and thanks to our friends at Ole Miss too for beating A&M for also allowing it to happen. But
Yeah.
now,
Hotty toddy.
right now, people, there's been some people saying that the Iron Bowl doesn't matter. What's your opinion on that?
Well, obviously, that's a lot of that is just in jest because
Right.
we've won a national championship,
Hmm.
even with with Auburn defeating us in the Iron Bowl. So a lot of it's just in jest. But the truth is, if Alabama beats Arkansas, even
Hmm.
if they drop that game to Auburn, and then Alabama goes on and beats Georgia in the SEC
Still,
championship game,
they're
Alabama's
still
getting
in.
in the playoff.
Hmm.
So it's funny that technically it doesn't matter, but I still want to go down there and beat the brakes off Auburn.
Absolutely. I mean, and they're going. Auburn fans are going to get mad at me for saying this, but they aren't our biggest rivals anymore. It's Tennessee. I feel like so, but I still want to beat them because they're an in-state team. And
Yeah.
so, but it's still a game that we got to get up for. We just can't go down there and lay an egg. And they're going
Right.
to be up
That's
for it.
that's the
So,
only thing that's concerning is if the team does get the win Saturday against Arkansas,
hmm,
um, that they go down there and kind of take Auburn lightly, and you know what happens there at Jordan Hare Stadium. Anything can happen there. Uh,
voodoo.
yeah, I mean they had kind of some reverse voodoo on them yesterday after blowing that 28-3 lead. But
Thank you,
gosh, but
Pirate. thank you,
but
thank you, Pirate Leech.
but yeah, I mean it's I still want Alabama to go down there and handle business and you finish the regular season strong, 11-1, and then get ready to face Georgia there in the SEC championship game.
And another thing is that it could be interesting if Alabama were to lose that game close. You know, they I don't know. Alabama the way they're playing right now, they are one of the top teams in the country.
Yeah,
And if they lose by a late field goal against Georgia,
right.
who's obviously the number one team, how do you
Right.
keep them out of the playoffs even with two
Exactly.
losses?
Exactly. So I mean, what you're saying is that they lost on a last second field goal to A&M and a last
Hmm.
second field goal to Georgia,
Right,
one on the road and one on a neutral site. So I mean, like I'm with you, and all that's going to play out. I mean,
right.
there's a lot that can happen with the other teams that are up there in the rankings. But one point I want to point out before we wrap up. We're fixing to wrap things up on this recap episode, but all these schools moaning and crying about Alabama playing New Mexico State
Oh my
out of
God.
the 12 teams that you can say are, kind of in the playoff hunt right now,
Mhm.
Alabama has the top strength of schedule out of all
Right.
those teams.
Yes.
So I don't want to hear it. I do not want to hear it.
No.
So
Getting a better conference. I mean,
well, and it's
you know,
not even that. I mean, they act
uh,
like Alabama's the only team who plays a cupcake once a year
right.
or
Yeah.
twice a year, even though they played Mercer and New Mexico State. Jake, they still have a better strength of schedule than Ohio State, than
Right.
Oklahoma. then Cincinnati by a long shot. I mean, they got like the 100th ranked strength of
Yeah.
schedule.
Of course,
I mean, I don't want to hear.
Oklahoma's gone now, so
Yeah, they're done. They're
yeah,
toast.
yeah.
But
But
anyways,
and I just want to make a public shout out. Steve Sarkisian, just come on home.
yeah, bring
Just come
him
on
back.
home.
Come
You
on
just
home, bro.
come on home. It's
What
you
an
know,
embarrassing loss.
man. I love you, Shark, but we kind of label some of these coordinators, who turn out to be head coaches, not that good at being a head coach or just a coordinator. You're starting to be into that, in that realm with Will
Well, they lost
Muschamp's and
they've lost 5 in a row now.
yeah. And I mean, they was getting blown out until they had to make a comeback against Kansas, who's only won like 2 meaningful games in like 20 years. It seems like maybe like 10, but still,
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
it's rough for them right now. Just come on home. We got your seat. Bill O'Brien's been just I guess keeping your seat warm. You can come on back.
That's right. I'm with Jake on that one. All right, guys. Hey, that's going to wrap up today's episode as we recap Alabama's 59-3 victory over New Mexico State yesterday in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Next up is Arkansas and then the Iron Bowl against the Auburn Tigers. Once again, this show is brought to you by betonline.ag. Make sure you head over there today. Sign up, use promo code BELIEVE50 and receive that 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All right, Jake. Look forward to talking to you again real soon. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.